Commissioner Richardson, Commissioner Bryant, Commissioner Williams-Cox, Commissioner Matlow is on as well. Yes.
Excellent. Good morning, everybody. Let me call this meeting of the CRA to order. I apologize for being a minute or two late. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in. Mr. Executive Director, do we have any agenda modifications?
Yes, sir, we do. We've added 3 items. 3.04 is the Neighborhood First update by John Baker. Item 3.05 is a Peacock Enterprise Center update from Kayla Norris Barber. And item 3.06 is a business and job training incubator concept that will be presented by Dot Inman Johnson. With that, that is all the agenda mods that we have today.
Colleagues, any questions on the agenda modification? Seeing no questions, we will move forward into presentations. 3.01, Mr. Tedder.
All right, we'll just turn it over to the Greater Frenchtown Southside CA Chair, Katrina Tuggerson.
Hi.
Good to see you.
You too. Good morning. Good morning. I had the opportunity to speak to everybody on the call just about, but good morning again. Just wanted to let you know the last time we met, it was August the 3rd, which was a very long meeting, and but we were able to cover a couple of things due to the time, and we can't meet in public. It makes our meetings a little extended, but we are aware of that. We have gotten a lot of emails and calls about how lengthy the meeting was, and nobody else was. So I just wanted to thank the committee and the team for volunteering their time and making sure that we make sure this important information is given out to the community, and also address and taking our time and consideration into going through each area. We had the opportunity to get presentations about the affordable housing program, along as with what the business assistant grant that we have going on right now through the CRA. We got updates on that as well, and I'm sure Wayne will be sharing that with you down the road in this at this meeting. Abina came on and she presented from the city about the housing program and how we're moving forward with that. So it was a great meeting. It was just covering a lot of bases. And that I just summed it all up so that it won't be prolonged today as well. One of the things we did get Dot Emerson Johnson to come on and also do a presentation to us as well about her project and her idea for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know these are difficult times holding these meetings virtually. Katrina, you're doing a great job as chair. We certainly do appreciate you and the board for all the hard work that you're doing. Colleagues, any questions for Chairwoman Tuggerson? Seeing none. Thank you, Katrina. We certainly do appreciate it. Let's move on to 3.02, Mr. Tedder.
All right, good afternoon. Good morning. We'll have Abina Ajatejo present our CRA and city affordable housing programs. We've got quite a bit of extensive programs going on, and I think what's most important about what Abina is sharing is most of what she will provide to you is what's going on throughout the city is available for the CRA district. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Abina, and I'm sure she's going to impress.
Good morning, Abina.
Good morning, everybody.
Colleagues, let me remind you that this is an information-only item, but of course, any questions that we have for Abina, we will open it up for discussion at the end. Abina, the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay with thumbs up? Okay. Sounds like it. I think I need host rights or presenter rights, and then I'll have my PowerPoint up, which you have as well as part of your attachment. So as soon as that's, if I have those rights, then I'll start sharing that with you. You all are very well versed on many of our housing efforts, but today I wanted to quickly gloss over many of the programs that we have in place for many years now, and then several that are new. All of these programs are available to those that live within the CRA, but there are certain projects as well that have highlighted or have focused efforts in the CRA area. So can everybody see the screen now? Thumbs up, all right. I'll start with this brief statement. If I could consolidate and sort of succinctly say what our division's mission is that we want to create affordable housing for all. We have so many different programs that ultimately we want to create as many pathways and opportunities as possible for folks to get to various types of housing. Affordable housing as a metric changes over the years, every year, with what HUD defines as an area median income. However, what the core message has been around affordability is not spending more than 30% of your salary or your income on housing. Anything more than that is considered housing burdened. So we know that's one of the area issues that we have, but it's also really a national issue. Our goals through the different programs that we implement are to preserve the inventory of affordable housing that we currently do have, and to partner with others to increase the number of affordable housing, and then also to create pathways out of homelessness. And that is our link with several other divisions within the city that address this human service issue of homelessness, but also on the housing side to look at it as a real solution to homelessness, is to provide a housing option that is affordable for them. So again, for this CRA board, you also are, of course, the city commission. So you know very well that you set a priority for affordable housing, and that shows up prominently in your impact on poverty section. And so I highlight those objectives that are tied directly to all the programs that you'll hear about, whether it's with repairing homes, working with the land trust, inclusionary housing, habitat, down payment assistance, and even funding through our partnership with the purpose-built community. All of these are directly aligned with your strategic plan. Altogether, if we take the units that were identified within the strategic plan, that's about 855 affordable housing units that we want to build or preserve by 2024. This slide is to summarize at the sort of 50,000 foot level the amount of investment that the city has made in this year. And I've tried to color code it in a way that hopefully you'll see repeated throughout the slides. The green area is describes programs that I call new homes. So all the initiatives that we have in place that encourages an individual or household to get a new home. And then the orange is strong homes or resilient homes. And these are programs that utilize disaster funding or emergency funds that come into our community, but also support our affordable housing initiatives. And we just launched one yesterday with the home repairs that's targeted for those that have been impacted by CARES Act, by COVID-19, using CARES Act funding. So that's the orange category. And the blue category is what we call safe homes. So these are programs that are designed to make existing housing safer and to encourage especially elderly folks to be able to age in place in housing that is affordable to them. So we do accessibility programs, repairs, and major rehabs through this category of funding. Altogether, it's about $4.6 million spent to build and preserve 398 units. That $4.6 million doesn't actually, I think it captures a bit of the housing assistance, but not the millions that have recently come in of CARES Act funding. So just wanted to clarify that part. All right, so let's jump into the new homes. Again, these are sort of the broad programs that we do to encourage new homeowners, but also you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. You're entering into a market where you get a brand new home. The first program that many of you are aware of is we have a down payment assistance program. We have one that supports city employees in particular, but we also have this available to anyone in the city. There's income eligibility, but we partner with the Tallahassee Lenders Consortium to provide home counseling, preparing your credit to be eligible to acquire a mortgage. And in addition to the mortgage that you will get for your new home, the city offers a down payment assistance that is a loan, but it's 0%, 30 years deferred loan. And you pay it back if you sell your home, or you can pay it back in smaller increments. But that is available. And this year so far, we've done 15 of those loans. In fact, I think a couple come in almost every other week. And so I know that number has changed, but about $125,000 is invested so far into that program. We also do Habitat, and many of you were there to kick us off of this year's 3 new homes that we'll build in partnership with Habitat. Habitat has a pretty successful model. They work with multiple agencies, and for the city, the way we partner is contribute our city employee volunteer time, which might look a little different this year in light of COVID, but we leverage contribution that we make through our Affordable Housing Trust Fund and work with Habitat as a nonprofit. We're able to actually recoup a significant amount of that contribution back from the state through what they call the Community Contribution Tax Credit Program. So in effect, we've created a revolving fund where we'll be able to do 3 of these homes every year. And again, your strategic plan identified this as a priority that you want to continue, and so we're looking forward to continue to implement that. I will mention also, because of the income eligibility for Habitat homes, many of these owners also end up qualifying for and securing a down payment assistance as well. So they're able to leverage multiple resources there. Inclusionary housing, just in, I believe it was May or March, I can't keep track of these COVID times anymore, but you all approved an amendment to the agreement we have with Canopy, where they're going to construct 66 additional inclusionary units right now. And so that's also available for anybody who's looking to enter into the market, particularly now with such great interest rates on loans. The program we have allows anybody who makes 100% AMI or below to be eligible for purchasing this home. The home comes at 199, just below 200,000, and we have also make the down payment program also available for folks that are buying this home. And the requirement is that the home has to remain affordable for 7 years, and after that, the buyer can sell it to another eligible buyer or to anybody else at the market rate. This is the inclusionary program, as you know, for anybody listening, is a program that is in place for new developments and private developers who build more than 50 units to do at least 10% of it as affordable to low and moderate income buyers. So we're looking forward to creating more opportunities for folks to move into other parts of town and to have access to a new home in a new neighborhood. The Community Land Trust was another big move that you all took this year. And again, in partnership with the county and the Tallahassee Lenders Consortium, this new initiative allows us to acquire and reserve a significant number of parcels and units that could stay in a land trust and remain affordable in perpetuity. And so a home in a land trust is sold at the property level, the improvement level, but the land itself is owned by the land trust and it is leased. And so for 99 years or for however long the community wants to make it, those units will remain at an affordable price. And the benefits and the incentives we put into the house at the initial level gets to be passed down to multiple folks. And this is a great tool to have folks enter into the real estate market, get a first home, and potentially, hopefully, transition out of that so that somebody else can also benefit from an affordable unit. In partnership with the county, we've identified at least 10 lots that the county has agreed to donate. They might do that in phases, and then the city will support the construction efforts of that beginning this fall. So we're excited about what the initial phases of this, and we're looking forward to what the Tallahassee Lenders Consortium will propose as a way to increase our affordable housing stock. You also approved a program that you'll hear more about in the later agenda item that Sherry will present. You approved a program to develop city-owned lots that are within the CRA district into affordable housing. And that process has been broken up into 2. One where, as you requested, the designs for these lots were solicited and submitted to the Citizens Advisory Committee to review, so that even though these are city lots and even though the construction is funded by the CRA, we wanted to be sure that the designs are something that the neighborhoods will feel excited about and be proud of. So that presentation was made to the Advisory Council last month now, I think early August 3rd, and there were 3 pretty interesting proposals that were provided. The second portion of it is the contractor pre-qualification, which that process is nearing completion now. We've had some evaluations already for that, and these are the contractors that we partner with OEV. These would be small businesses, local enterprises that are eager to be part of the solution. And so with the CRA's contribution of the construction dollars and the design costs, and then the city's contribution of the lots, we're hoping to build 6 of these houses in the greater Frenchtown as well as in the Bond neighborhoods this year. So we're excited about that. And again, you'll hear more about that and be able to take an action on that at the later agenda item.
Hey, Abena, while you're on this slide, can you give a quick update on the status of the RFP that we've just received notice on?
Yes, so the RFQ was to solicit contractors or to pre-qualify contractors that will be able to do the work. The review committee met last week. I'm so sorry. I can't keep track of my time. I think it was last week. They have met and they identified, I think we had 5 applicants. They identified the top 2 that they want to recommend to the board. And those firms, barring any issues, I think there is an intention to protest by at least one, but that process is underway. We should be able to wrap that up and present back to the CRA board the options that are available for you to select. And those contractors will be pre-qualified to bid on the designs that have been finalized by the CAC and begin construction. Wayne, did you have another question on that?
No, that's correct. And okay. So, Mayor and Commissioners, it may be September before we bring back a resolution to that issue, depending on the timing. So we're kind of going to be tied up just a little bit dealing with the notice to petition against the process.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Wayne, you know, in our briefing, I asked, I believe we had this conversation about the possibility of potential of minority participation in this project. Can you speak a little bit to what our conversation was?
Yes, ma'am. So Abena is very familiar with the approach that we've tried to obtain minority participation in this process. One of the things that we've dealt with when we first got the project and we tried to get minority firms in the loop so they could apply for this process, we contacted OEV and they reached out to minority design firms, architects. What they did not reach out, or who they did not reach out to, are folks like engineers. So what we did have was a late coming application that said, hey, we're an engineering firm, but we still can design and be qualified for doing these projects. So we have, because it was an informal process, we've received their application. We're going to go back through the selection committee process and then back to the CAC for them to include that firm. So long term, we need to be a little bit more careful how we try to approach firms and make it a little bit more broad sweep to encompass as many firms as possible that could possibly qualify to do the work.
Okay, and thank you for that, Wayne. I wanted the other commissioners to hear what our conversation was in case you didn't have that with them. And I think that when we go out looking for, we need to provide the specs of what we're looking for so that OEV won't have they won't have to decide for us what we're looking for. We can let them know what we're looking for, and then they can look for at least a minimum of what we are saying that we need so that we can try to make sure that we make this thing as broad as we can and get as many opportunities for as many firms that's eligible to do this work. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Richardson.
On point with Commissioner Williams-Cox, Wayne and I did talk about that very thing in my brief, the fact that we need to make sure that we are encouraging minority and women-owned business participation in these projects, because we have to set the example. And Wayne assured me that that would be the case. And so, you know, I'm comfortable with the direction that we're headed right now. But Commissioner Williams-Cox makes some excellent points. And like I said, Wayne and I talked about the very same thing during our briefing.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Abena.
All right, thank you. I'll breeze through. I know you have a long agenda, so I don't want to take up too much time, but I will pause whenever you want to while I'm breezing through. You all also very familiar about the Orange Avenue Apartments. This is probably a flagship project that with the CRA support and the city's support, we've been able to see some real progress on that. Again, this is something that it will come before you at least one more time, but the Orange Avenue Apartments and the redevelopment of those apartments is right now at least two phases. One that the CRA has already supported and was able to leverage the $1 million investment for the CRA for several $1 million, $23 million for phase one for 130 units. They'll be entering the competition again with the Florida Housing Finance Corporation to get additional money for phase two. This project, not to be just confused with the overall purpose-built project, I do always want to clarify that the South City Foundation as the quarterback is leading the revitalization of that entire area. The model they're using is the purpose-built communities. And part of the purpose-built community is to address three-pronged comprehensive community development, which includes health and wellness, cradle to college education, but also mixed income housing. And so this project, the Orange Avenue Apartments, will actually begin to introduce that part of the solution of an overall purpose-built redevelopment project. So we're really excited about the investment, leveraging the investment the city can make in this project to secure more funding outside of our community. The project will also take advantage of the city's affordable housing, water, and sewer incentive program, and we typically invest about $150,000 of that to further reduce the cost of development that is affordable.
Mr. Mayor?
Go back.
Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I tell you, I am so excited about this project. This was one of the first that I advocated for when I came to the commission. What I had to do in order to make this happen after Ms. Williams and I talked and she shared with me her vision for redeveloping and revitalizing the Orange Avenue Apartments was to include South City within the Frenchtown Southside CRA district. It was not in the district at the time. And so it took me a little while, but through perseverance and convincing, the CRA board, which included the county at the time, did approve extending the CRA district lines to include South City. And so that's how we were able then to provide the funding for the Orange Avenue, for the Housing Authority, and then them to leverage that $1.3 million to get the $23 million from Florida Housing Finance for this first phase of redevelopment of the apartments. And so I'm very excited about it. It's long overdue. I know the residents are anxious. And the one thing that I want to emphasize, and again, since we don't oversee the Housing Authority, we're simply partners with them in this, is that every family that is now in the Orange Avenue Apartments will be given a Section 8 voucher. And they can take that voucher anywhere in the country and get housing. And they will be located. The Housing Authority will locate everyone that's there now when they start the redevelopment. So no one has to worry about being without housing. And when the redevelopment is finalized, they will have first right of refusal if they want to come back to that new and revitalized development. And so I think this is really going to be transformational for the south side of Tallahassee. In addition to the 230 some odd low-income housing units that will be replaced, there will also be market rate housing in the area at the time as well. And so one of the things that we're keeping in mind also by keeping those low-income apartments there is not to gentrify the area. That's one of the things we always have to keep in mind when we do redevelopment projects like this. This has been successfully done in areas like Atlanta and Tampa. I visited the project in Tampa. I haven't been to Atlanta, and I was amazed at what I saw. It was wonderful. And so, again, I'm excited about this project and what it will do, like I said, not only for the south side of Tallahassee, but our entire city. So, Abena, thank you for the work that you've done on this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Abena.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I have just come into the party right now, so I definitely recognize so much work that has gone into this program so far. I think Brenda wouldn't mind me sharing that the developers for this project, having done a similar work with purpose-built communities, has really established and done the work of building a relationship with the South City Foundation. In fact, they've already committed to a couple $100,000 of their developers' profit into the nonprofit foundation to further support their overall goals. So it's already really feeling like a beautiful partnership, and I think it's going to be good for our community. The short-term construction loan program, you guys have been busy and making me busy. This was another new program that the commission launched this year. We've actually already started receiving applications for this program, and this is targeted at creating pathways for private developers to build and to really do more of the infill housing. And so what you approved is $175,000 per project, a maximum of 2 loans at a time. And this is meant to inject cash for private developers as soon as they constructed. Within 18 months or 6 months after their certificate of occupancy, they repay the money, and then it goes back into this revolving fund. The city has already committed $750,000 for this, and later today, actually, we'll also be asking if the CRA will like to put in a contribution of $250,000, and that portion of the money will be reserved for development projects that are within the CRA districts. That will make a nice $1 million fund that we haven't had before, and again, an incentive for private developers to help us with increasing the number of new homes that we have. All of this, and I just throw this in there because I think our planning department is doing a great job of helping us figure out ways to identify barriers and to create more units. What we know is that there's a huge gap for and a huge need for new construction, but we want to do it in a way that is at a neighborhood scale. We want to address vacant lots. We want to address, blighted properties, and we want to fill it in a way that respects the character of Tallahassee neighborhoods. And so, this idea of missing middle housing is that over the years, we might see a range of options that are available to us beyond just a single family unit, but again, at a scale that I think we can all be proud of. And this model is working really well across the nation. So I end on the new housing projects with just this note that the future is pretty bright. And I think with all the mix of programs that we have in place, I think we'll start to see some interesting concepts come before us. All right, safe homes. I'll make this quick. These are programs that address health and safety hazards in existing homes. A lot of it we've been doing for many years, and we continue to invest in it. For home repair and rehab, we've done about 86 homes this year, and about 300,000 is all that it's taken to address issues of code enforcement, roof, rot, everything that you can think of that really start to become a hazard. And we, again, here prioritize disabled, very low income families, as well as elderly folks, so that they can sustain an affordable unit and age well in their homes. We also partner with Ability First to make accessibility improvements in existing homes. So far this year, we've done 12 of them at about $122,000 invested. This is interior and exterior homes. It's a very popular program, and it's always so wonderful to see just little things like a ramp being installed in a home that makes all the difference for a family. I am just received a notice that my computer is going to restart. I did not ask it to. I have about 9 minutes, so I'll breeze through it. And if it cuts off, I'll log back in. But I think you've gotten the best parts of today's presentation, and you'll hear more. Strong Homes is about building strong and resilient households. And so we look at opportunities to address issues that may create problems during the event of a storm or a natural hazard. But also this year, especially, we've looked at economic resilience and how we can support families that are faced with economic crisis, but also look at the housing portion of their work. And then we've had more money come into homelessness services than we've ever had in the history of our homelessness service. And so we've, through your leadership on appropriating CARES Act dollars, we've put so much more money into rapid rehousing in this community than ever before. We've had this program to proactively address hazards and to mitigate storm damage. We've done 12 homes with about $41,000 for our storm damage mitigation program. We also do emergency housing assistance, so that $500,000 in state relief funds is part of what we just announced yesterday to help with home repairs for those that have been impacted by COVID. And as I mentioned, $1.4 million have come in for emergency solutions grants, and the bulk of that is going into rapid rehousing. So those that are effectively or actually homeless, we now have new dollars in our community to help them transition into a permanent housing solution, and then work with case managers and our service providers to really lead them into a sustainable place where they can maintain the home through other forms of income. So all of that is summarized at talgov.com/housing. I have about 8 minutes before my computer shuts down, and I'll be happy to take any questions you have.
Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you. Question, Benna. You know, when the governor's executive order expires on the non-eviction,
yes,
we're going to be faced with a lot of people who may be facing homelessness. Is this program going to be available to them?
Yes, it will. So if somebody is actually homeless, this CARES Act, the rapid rehousing funding is available to them. Although we will begin to work with our shelter providers to try to reduce the population of folks that are already in our shelter starting there. However, in coordination with the county, when they allocated their CARES Act funds, we advocated for, and they did allocate $7.1 million for direct assistance, and that is really targeted towards homelessness prevention. And so if you are already in a home and you're facing eviction, and all you need to do is make up for that difference, that funding is set aside for prevention. And then the city sort of tried to address the gap we have with those that are already homeless and provide funding for getting them transitioned into a new home.
Okay. Benna, how are we going to get that information out to people, number one? And then secondly, I would suggest that we also get this information out to landlords so that they know about it and they can inform their tenants.
Right. We actually coordinated and joined a call with the county for landlords, and I think we had over 40 people attend that call before the CARES Act, the county's CARES Act program went live. We talked with them, make sure they understood the program. We encouraged them to set up facilities in their apartment complexes to get people to apply, give them the right information. So we're still taking those calls and helping to get the word out on the homelessness prevention side of things. The rapid rehousing, we're partnering with the Big Bend Continuum of Care, as well as the Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and they implement this program on behalf of all the homeless shelters and service providers. So we're having weekly calls with them. They've already actually started working through their caseload of clients that might be eligible for this. And so we're hoping that, at least is my goal, by the end of the year, that we get the bulk of this out of our hands, because I'm pretty excited about it, to work towards at least a functional zero goal. I think for the first time, it's actually possible in our community.
Benna, you might also want to contact the courts, because I know that there are cases already lined up that as soon as the order is lifted, they're going to start those eviction processes. So that might be another source of information where we can get information to is the courts as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Because they can then make the landlords and the tenants aware of, the possibility for eligibility for these funds as well. We just don't want to see anybody slip through the cracks,
Right.
Any individual or family become homeless because they didn't know about the assistance available to them.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Ben.
Mayor.
Absolutely.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Ben, I'm hoping that you can provide some insight or advice, or let me just share with you a concern that I have received from the community in regards to the eviction reprieve, is that some landlords, of course, are not being paid, and the tenants are in the homes and they can't do anything about it, and they're messing up, they're tearing them up on the inside. And the person who said this to me is a 80-plus-year-old landlord, and just don't know what to do about the situation. They're not being paid, but they know that their property is being destroyed. They can't put them out, and they're not paying. So that may be a situation where maybe more than one person is having that issue. That maybe if there's a place where people can call and get information on what they can do, that would be helpful. What I shared with them is that I just know that there was no intention for their property to be destroyed.
Right.
So I don't think that if someone's destroying their property, that they should be precluded from evicting them because they're destroying their property.
I'll check with our partners on the legal side to see if there are pathways that landlords can take based on what the governor has set in place, what exactly the restriction is for eviction, so that they know what options they have, and certainly also how we might pull in other divisions. I'm thinking out loud, but that's an interesting problem, and I've made a note to follow up with our legal partners.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Abena, thank you very much. We certainly do appreciate it. That was a great update, and you're doing wonderful work. As you know, affordable housing is a true priority of not only the commission, but of the CRA, and we're moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abena.
Wayne, we're on 3.03.
Yes, yes, sir. So this is the Neighborhood First Update. We have Leanne Watt-Williams, who will do another exceptional job on her presentation as she's done. She presented this information to the CAC. And really what we're trying to do is there's a lot of folks saying there's not anything happening in my neighborhood, or when is something going to happen in my neighborhood? And Leanne is on top of that. And so this is an opportunity for you all to see what is happening and then what may not be happening at this time. And you give us direction on what you need to push us on to make happen quicker. So with that, Leanne, the floor is yours. I see Melissa, you got to transfer over to her for a presenter.
Thank you, Wayne. And before I begin, I'll defer to my director, Ashley Edwards.
Thank you, Leanne. I just wanted to take a minute to echo Wayne's comments. Leanne's done an outstanding job working with the Bond neighborhood. You're also going to hear from Robin Wayner here in just a minute. She's working on the Griffin Heights plan. They and the other staff members in neighborhood affairs that work alongside them are really working hard to make these improvements in the neighborhood. And I applaud their efforts and also have enjoyed having a role in that and working with the neighbors as well. So we're happy to make this update to you and be glad to answer any questions when you get done.
Thank you kindly, Ashley. Mayor, City Commission, CRA Board, and other appointed officials, I appreciate this opportunity to provide you with an update on the Greater Bond Neighborhood First Plan. And we'll begin with the implementation funding. Back in December of 2018, you did award $6.4 million to the implementation of the Greater Bond Neighborhood First Plan, and about $2.65 million has been allocated to various signature projects that include the Linear Park, the Residential Facade Program, enhancement at Spencer Stevens Park, engaging with the community around the infrastructure that's taking place in their neighborhood, as well as Saxon Street landscaping. And so the balance going forward that's to be committed to affordable housing as a priority is about $650,000. And so that leaves approximately $3.75 million left of the original $6.4 million. So we'll delve a little deeper into some of the signature projects that have come out of the plan thus far. The linear park, construction of the linear park began after the groundbreaking in February of this year. We do expect that construction to be complete this fall. Here are some progress photos of the construction of the park. The box culverts have been buried underground and covered. The wrought iron fencing is in place, and we also have the bench wall that will bear the name of the park once the community has decided on what it will be. In regards to the Neighborhood Residential Facade Improvement Grant Program, 13 grantees have been funded in phase 1 of the program. 5 of the homes have been completed, and we're ready to bid the remaining 8. Just earlier this month, the program priorities were updated by the Community Action Team. And so once we receive that direction, we are ready to move forward with phase 2 of the project, and the application period for phase 2 will open on September 1st. So here are a few before and after pictures of one of the homes on Holton Street. These 2 homes are on Keith Street, and these 2 homes are on Saxon Street. And so one of the changes that the Community Action Team made was to increase the grant award amount from $10,000 to $17,000. And there will now be priority placed on the length of time that the homes have been owner occupied. Further projects that are coming up and the funding associated with them is the Saxon Street landscaping. Streetscaping. The neighborhood has indicated that they want to dedicate more funding to an affordable housing strategy that focuses on that allocates $500,000 to the residential facade program and $100,000 for new construction and down payment assistance. And their wishes are to leverage those funds with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. A micro loan program, some initial discussions have taken place regarding that. And the neighborhood would also like $10,000 for neighborhood art. In regards to streetscaping, Saxon Street is the first priority street that has been selected for streetscaping, and construction is scheduled to begin later this year. City staff continues to work on design improvements, and the improvements will include street lighting, landscaping, sidewalk, pavement marking improvements, and crosswalks. Additionally, we've initiated some discussions on Gamble Street enhancements that will complement the resurfacing that's going to take place on Gamble as well. Here we have some renderings of the proposed streetscaping for Saxon Street. As I mentioned, it'll include sidewalks, landscaping, lighting, and other plantings.
Liam just got to catch up with you a bit.
Yes, Wayne.
The slide didn't catch up with you, so there you go.
So here are some renderings of the proposed streetscaping for Saxon Street. From Orange to Campbell, Campbell Street to Floral Street, and then we have some landscape visuals, sidewalks, and the lighting fixtures that have been selected for by the neighborhood. Okay. Some other implementation projects that are going on in Bond is the City Farm TLH project with our team members in housing and community resilience. This is part of the Vacant to Vibrant program, which provides sustainable urban pilot farm and an entrepreneurship program. Earlier this year, after sharing the results of a structural evaluation, the Community Action Team decided, in consensus on demolishing 2021 Holton Street, which the CRA acquired last year. It was determined that it was not structurally sound, so the neighborhood has given us to go ahead to demolish the building, and they would like to work with the Neighborhood Affairs Division to erect a historical marker, as well as engage with the community further on what they would like to see on that site. A neighborhood boundary land use category is in the works that will address non-conforming uses in the neighborhood. And also there has been an RFP on the sale of exchange of a little less than an acre on Eugenia Street, which you approved last month. Looking at other City of Tallahassee investment in Greater Bond, 3 disconnected youth from the Greater Bond recently graduated from the Tempo program, and 1 is attending Lively, and 2 are employed in fair or living wage jobs. Other public infrastructure projects that include water and sewer improvements, FAMU Way Phase 3 segments are some of the other public infrastructure projects that are going on. A vacant home on Clara Street was accepted for $0 earlier this year, and 3 of the affordable housing repair projects are in Greater Bond, as Abena mentioned, on Saxon Keith and Kissimmee Streets. In regards to the CRA's affordable housing RFQ, 3 of the lots are in Greater Bond, and from the CRA Disaster Assistance Program, 5 businesses received the grant from Greater Bond. Additionally, due to some recent events that have taken place in the neighborhood, Deputy Chief Smith and her team at TPD have held 3 community meetings with the residents of Greater Bond to address some of their public safety concerns. The award-winning Southside Farmers Market is underway in the Greater Bond neighborhood, just outside of the Walker Ford Community Center. The next market day will be on September 10th, and this addresses your strategic plan and provides a fresh food source to not only the residents of Greater Bond, but the Southside and broader community. Looking at the status of other neighborhood first efforts, with the Providence neighborhood, we began engagement with them on an update to their Providence neighborhood plan earlier this year. However, due to COVID-19, the neighborhood requests that we put that effort on hold. In terms of the South City neighborhood first process, we are working with the foundation to determine a more collaborative approach to implement the MPSI initiative and neighborhood first, given the current purpose-built efforts that are underway in the Greater Bond neighborhood, in the South City neighborhood. My apologies. And if there are no questions on Greater Bond, I will turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Robin Wayner, to provide the Frenchtown update.
Leanne, first of all, just a second, I'll come to you in just a second. Leanne, great job. Certainly do appreciate it. I know that this is an incredible investment and priority of the CRA. I do want you to know that I'm hearing a little bit of concern from the neighborhood that sometimes we're moving a little quicker than the public input. And I just want to stress once again to make sure that the residents are with us every step of the way as we move forward, especially with the appropriation of funds, and to make sure that we are moving forward together.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Mayor Pro Tem.
I say great job. Thank you for this great job, and thank you for this terrific update. It is indeed what we're needing. I too am hearing. I've heard a concern or two about the amount of money that has been allocated for streetscaping as opposed to affordable housing. I see that this, if you can go back, maybe go back to that slide, streetscaping for Saxon of $1.1 million and $650,000 in affordable housing. That's not the line of work that I'm in, and I don't know. Maybe it takes that for streetscaping, but people are looking at not how pretty the streets are, but whether people got somewhere to live in off the streets. And so I just want to bring that to your attention, to you all's attention, that there has been some concern expressed on that, and that perhaps affordable housing and more facade grant money is needed, because I know that there was a very competitive process to select whose property got facaded, if that's a word, and but there were so many applicants that were not able to get there. So if there is a possibility, any way to look at maybe some cost savings on the streetscaping to perhaps redistribute those funds, some funds to affordable housing and more facade help is kind of what I'm hearing. So I just share that as what I'm hearing, so that you know that as well.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I could jump in and let's just thank you for those comments. And we are working closely with the CAT team on the prioritization of those funds, as well as making improvements and enhancements to the housing facade program. And we definitely understand the desire from the community to see additional opportunities for others to participate in the housing facade program. And we will continue to work through those issues with the group, and just wanted to say thank you for bringing that forward to us as well.
My pleasure.
All right, Leanne, let's move forward. You're doing great.
Going to turn over to my colleague, Ms. Robin Weiner, and she is going to provide the Frenchtown update. Robin?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Robin Weiner, and I'm the lead staff for Neighborhood Affairs on the Frenchtown Neighborhood First planning process. This process really is in close partnership, of course, with the planning department and lots of other city departments, but I want to give a special shout out to Devin Levins and for his great work and partnership on this effort. So I want to give a quick update on the Neighborhood First planning process. We were tasked last fall to start to implement this planning process, and the goal really was to build upon the great work of the Frenchtown placemaking plan, some of the planning work that the Urban League had done, and then also look back at the other good work that had happened in previous planning efforts in the neighborhood. So we spent the fall meeting with stakeholders and residents and identifying folks to get involved in the process, and then really kicked it off formally in January of this year. As you remember, we also had a neighborhood tour with commissioners and other city leadership at the end of January. And again, the structure of the Neighborhood First planning process is that we use a community action team, or CAT, to really serve as an overarching advisory group to the planning process. We have 3 co-chairs of that group, Mutaki Akbar, Daryl Scott, and Beverly Williams. And then under that structure, there are 3 priority area teams. So through the work that we did initially with the neighborhood, they identified 6 priority areas to focus on. And those 6 areas are economic development and community reinvestment, housing, land use and transportation, placemaking and neighborhood image, neighborhood safety and crime prevention, and health and resident empowerment. And so the way that we went about tackling the work is that 3 priority area teams each dove in and started to work on 2 priority area teams each. And we have co-chairs for each of those 3 teams. For economic development, community reinvestment, and housing, we have Kayla Norris Barber, James Bellamy, and Curtis Taylor as co-chairs of that group. For our land use and transportation, placemaking, and neighborhood image group, we have Ann Roberts and Daryl Scott as our co-chairs there. And for neighborhood safety and crime prevention, health and resident empowerment, we have Maisha Mitchell, Sabrina Thurman Newby, and Beverly Williams as our co-chairs there. So from January to March, and Leanne, you can move on to the next slide. From January to March, we had a number of meetings, both with the community action team and with these priority area teams, and got a lot of work done during that time. However, our in-person meetings were halted, of course, due to COVID-19. And then we began meeting virtually with the community action team leadership in early April. The decision was made after a series of conversations as a way to move forward despite COVID-19 to work with the co-chairs of both the community action team and the priority area teams to bring the plan to a good working draft that they were all comfortable with, and then take the next steps of determining the best ways to further engage other residents and other stakeholders in a COVID compliant way. So we have been working over the past few months with each of the co-chair priority area teams to look at their specific sections of the plan and go through it piece by piece and update it in a way that they're comfortable with. And then all 9 of those co-chairs will be approving the plan, hopefully by the end of September, so that at that time it is in a good working draft, and then we'll move forward in the next steps of getting more input there. Throughout this process, over the past few months, the group also identified concerns that they've been hearing within the neighborhood about the increased hardship that COVID-19 was creating for people that were already facing multiple hardships. And they decided it was imperative to create an additional plan that addressed the immediate needs of the neighborhood. And this plan, which you will likely see in your inbox shortly, addresses things like loss of housing, food insecurity, mental health, physical health, helping to pay things like childcare, utility, helping kids and parents with schooling, and other general loss of income issues. And some concurrent activities have been happening along with this planning. There have been additional food distribution. We've been able to connect the community action team leaders with partners like Second Harvest and Bond Community Health Center, Neighborhood Medical Center. There has been at least one pop-up testing site earlier this month. There's also been a few nearby in Griffin Heights, and multiple partners have helped out with mass distribution as well. So the idea is that there are concurrent activities that the neighborhood is helping with in partnership with other agencies and entities to bring these needed immediate services to the neighborhood.
Rob, before we move on, I've got a question real quick. If you can go back to that slide.
Sure.
So when we talk about the immediate needs, and I look forward to seeing the plan that's coming up, I mean, your first bullet is loss of housing. And my question is, how do we track this? And how do we know the better data that we have, the better we can address the needs, which I guess will come out in the plan that we'll receive. But can you walk me down a street in Frenchtown and say, 5 months ago, the Smith family lived in this house, and because of COVID, they have lost their house and they currently are homeless. You know, right here at this house, we had the Whitley family that lost their house due to COVID, and we need immediate action. How do we track that?
Well, that's a good question, and I think that it will be imperative for us to work with the neighborhood leaders and some of the other resources that are being put together and that are available now to address loss of housing. So one of the exercises that we did with the leadership in Frenchtown was to look at this immediate needs plan and then also identify the resources that are there or coming to address this. And so, for example, with Leon Cares, they also have a network of sort of navigating agencies helping to helping people apply for that program for mortgage or rental assistance. And there are two agencies in Frenchtown that are serving as those navigators. And so I think we need to both work with the county and other entities to identify the numbers that are occurring in each neighborhood, especially those NPSI, Neighborhood First neighborhoods, so that we can see how those resources are being dispersed. As part of that immediate needs plan, you'll see that they've also identified certain subsets of the population that aren't going to be served by some of these programs that are already in existence, like people with fixed incomes or who can't otherwise demonstrate that they've had a loss of income due to COVID-19. People that don't have issues with housing but have issues with health expenses or childcare expenses. So they'd like to see some programming or funding to address some of those populations that are really kind of a gap in service.
Mr. Mayor, if I might have to add, also, it might be the title of this bullet might be helping to prevent the loss of housing rather than so much of an exercise in what housing has been lost. I think the neighborhood is really concerned with trying to preserve the existing homes, people in their homes, and what resources might be available to them.
Well, my point is, I think that's going to be an incredible issue that we've got to be organized. Here's how I see it, Ashley. I mean, the way how that we presented is the address of increased hardships of Frenchtown residents face due to COVID-19, which means we're talking about a defined period of time. But we also know that right now, I would be curious to know how we're tracking families that have lost their houses due to COVID, because I also know that there have been emergency judicial orders, I believe, put in place that allow people to stay in their residence and not be evicted while they're here. So this is one of those issues where I want to make sure we stay ahead of the curve. At some point, some of these judicial orders and legislation will fade away. They'll sunset. And that's when we're going to have a problem. If people have a loss of income and they can't meet their rent or mortgage, that is when we could possibly see, the significant impact of loss of housing. But it goes back to the original question. How are we tracking this? And again, do we do this literally on the family in the street level? Because if you have an individual or a family that is, we have a housing crisis to begin with. And then if we have an individual or a family that is losing their house due to COVID, that compounds the problem that we have. So I'm really interested in our metrics in getting ahead of this issue as we move forward. But great presentation. I appreciate your answer. Yeah. Dr. Bryant.
Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going on the same track as you. And the other, I guess, compounding metric will be for those who have already received some type of assistance. How does that play into, not to say because you received it yesterday, you don't need it tomorrow, you may. But I think collecting the data will help to provide some very key indicators on who actually continues to need and how we can help, not only as a result of COVID-19, but going forward. I also want to say, and I tried to get this on our last presentation, and this kind of supports this idea that in these presentations, it's always good to have that community chair to actually sit along with our staff to make these presentations, because many of these questions could possibly actually be at least discussed at a level that they would bring that we are actually not privy to. So I think that that's another thing that I just want to put on the table, that our neighborhood presidents, chairs are added value. And I think that's what they believe in terms of presentations to the commission.
Good point. All right, Robin, I'm going to ask you to keep moving. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
My questions are, you all know I love data. And so I co-sign on the fact that we need some data to base this on. But the other thing is, for the immediate needs plan, how is what's being asked for there different from what the CARES dollars in our community are doing. Is that not meeting the need, or is this is something beyond what CARES is doing, or how does that fit?
Sure. So the Community Action Team leadership, again, we ran through the exercise of looking at the CARES, the Leon CARES program, as well as other programs administered by Capital Area Community Action, to look at, what populations are being served already by this influx of dollars in the community. And they identified some areas that are still gaps in service. So, for example, with Leon CARES, you do have to demonstrate a loss of income. And so they identified people in that population, perhaps that are on fixed income, where they can't demonstrate that loss of income, but their expenses have gone up. Again, Leon CARES really focuses on mortgage and utility and rent assistance, and they wanted to assert, the neighborhood wanted to assert that there are often the flexibility of allowing people to define how to solve their own financial crisis, that maybe rent and utilities is not what they're having trouble with, but they can't pay their healthcare bills or their childcare expenses. So having a little bit more flexibility of funds for people as well. And then another item that they identified is that with Leon CARES, if you have more than $3,000 that you owe to your landlord or your mortgage company, they won't help you, is my understanding. And so that they identified a need to have sort of a patch funding source for people that would otherwise qualify for Leon CARES, but need an additional source to kind of address the over $3,000 amount. So there's some populations and gaps where people may not be eligible for Leon CARES that they identified.
Okay, and again, that's why that data is so important. The other thing is, and I may step on some toes when I say this, but I got to say it. I will have been on the commission, November be 2 years, and we've been talking about the Frenchtown plan for all that time. And we're getting a lot of flack, we meaning the commission, because it looks like we're not moving or doing anything in Frenchtown. And without a plan from the residents, the group that you've itemized, it needs to be clear that we are at a standstill waiting, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to come into a community and give them what you think, but we're needing input from the community on what is needed. Yeah, you'll see today, I saw it in my briefing, you'll see that there's a line item in the budget for Frenchtown. So money's been allocated. We want to do a whole, we want to do a whole deal with Frenchtown, like we've done with Bond, but we don't have what we need to work with to make that happen. And so I need people to understand that's why it's looking like that. We get a piecemeal project here or there, somebody comes up, with this or that, but we need that whole comprehensive thing to land on our desk so we can do something about it and do something with it, because we're being held accountable, but we can't do anything with what we don't have. So I just say that to say that I know that people are working very, very hard to try to come together to provide that plan for us, but we need to we need that plan. We need it. We're about to come upon the second Christmas without that gift that we can do something with. So I'm hoping that the committee is listening and that they will understand the urgency of let's do this before something major happens and we have to use those funds or look at possibly using those funds to take care of a catastrophe. You see what's happening with the weather right now over in Louisiana and Texas. If something happens here in Tallahassee and it impacts something in the CRA district, guess what? We're going to be looking for available funds to try to make that happen, to fix what's going on. So my point is, we need a plan as soon as possible. And I said that in 2018. I've said it in 2019. So I'm gonna say it again in 2020 for good measure. We need a comprehensive plan. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. All right, Robin, keep moving us forward.
Well, that is the end of my presentation and summary of where we are now.
You did a great job. Thank you very much. I know we threw a lot of tough questions at you. Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you. And I don't know if this is an appropriate question for now, but also I'd like to know where we are with the development project that Tony Brown is proposing for Frenchtown, the Frenchtown Gateway project. And how does that figure into where we are with the plan for Frenchtown as well?
Mr. Mayor, I can answer that very briefly.
Okay, thank you, Wayne.
So it's a two-parter. So number one is trying to get the healthcare clinic established in the district, up and running. The CRA staff is working with the city attorney's office and working with their council to begin the development of a final funding agreement for that first phase. Our first indications to the developer is that once he has something clear and in hand from TMH, then we can bring that agreement back to you all. And Cassandra, you feel free to interject if you need to. Then we'll bring that back to you all for final approval. That was the direction from you when we approved the concept. So you will see those funding agreements when we have the information necessary to bring that back to you. The larger development is yet to be determined based on analysis and community input. However, we have been told by the developer that he's looking at a long-term loan or a long-term grant through the CRA, which could be as much as $1 million a year. Wow. So what you will see in our 5-year funding plan that Sherry's going to present to you at the end of this meeting, we have started to account for that in years 2024 and beginning in years 2024. So that does have an impact to what we can spend dollars on throughout the district.
Okay. Because I agree with, again, Commissioner Williams-Cox. You know, I'm hearing from the community as well, but, you know, we don't want to move forward without a plan that they have approved. And so the ball is kind of in their court at this point. I know we were close to finalizing a plan at one point, and then I think some new people came on board and we restarted the process. But yeah, we need that plan. The money is allocated, you know, $12 million over the next 5 years, and it's sitting there ready to be spent. But we want to spend it on what the neighborhood tells us they want it spent on, and that has to be identified in that plan. So we're ready to go, just waiting on the neighborhood to come up with the plan to tell us how they want that money spent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. Appreciate it. Okay, that wraps up 3.03. Thank you, everyone, for your presentations. We are now on 3.04. Mr. Tedder.
Yes, sir, Mayor and Commissioners. Item 3.04 will be presented by Kayla Norris Barber. He has developed a concept called Peacock Enterprise Center. This issue has not been brought before the CAC, but it's an opportunity for you to hear the concept. And if there's an appropriate direction for staff, we will take that direction from you all. So with that, Mr. Barber, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Tedder, and thank you, Board for the CRA, for allowing me to come before you this morning. The Mount Olive Housing and Community Development Corporation is here to present a funding request for $55,000 for your consideration. The proposal is to transform 527 West Brevard Street into a training venue. The venue is the former home of Alice Peacock, who was an educator and counselor at the original Lincoln High School. So that's why this training venue is appropriately named in her honor. The Peacock Center will offer 4 basic components. One is a COVID-19 response and defense training for businesses. It will train businesses on the best practices in COVID-19 defense and The training module features the best practices for teaching new safety protocols to handle the novel coronavirus. At the end of the training, it is our desire and our intent that the business will be able to conduct a preparedness or develop a preparedness training plan. The second component is a retraining of for unemployed and underemployed residents. We will have a focus on training veterans, returning citizens, and other residents of the community who have lost employment or is underemployed. We will train them in the area. Actually, we'll train them on the entire Microsoft suite of software, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, those software packages that are universally used in almost every business. In addition to that, we will train them on an accounting software package called QuickBooks, which almost every business needs to operate their business. Oftentimes, businesses don't understand or place value on the need for financial management services, especially those businesses that are undercapitalized. They just would rather spend the money someplace else rather than financial management services that will guide them in developing and growing their business. In addition to that, we would train them on Acrobat and a tax software package called Drake. These training programs will be an 8-week instructional program and a 4-week follow-up mentoring and coaching sessions. So in all, it would be based on the quarter system. It would be a 12-week program. Additionally, we will have those folks who want to become entrepreneurs. We will partner with Small Business Development Center to have some of those people who want to be entrepreneurs over into their system, and we would take them from proof of concept all the way through business plan. Let me also mention too that we have registered with an organization called Certiport, and we have become a certified Certiport training center and a certified Certiport testing center, so that our certificates from our program will be globally recognized through that agency. On top of that, we will aid folks who are unemployed to file for unemployment, help them fill out the applications, which if you've ever seen it, is extensive. And we will be able to use our training as a requirement for work search and work registration. So that's kind of where we are. We know that there's a tremendous need for this service, and we want to avail ourselves, especially in this period of COVID-19. We have applied for and have been determined eligible for Human Service CARES Act grant of $20,000, and we are here today to ask you to make up the difference in the money that we need for $55,000. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you for that presentation. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh, okay, Mr. Barber, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the information. So are you saying that you need $55,000 in addition to the $20,000 that you're anticipating you will get?
Yes, ma'am.
Leon Cares. And,
yes, ma'am.
This is in anticipation because you've been deemed eligible. And I'm not familiar with what the exact process is after you've been deemed eligible.
Okay, we've been deemed eligible, so the response is that you're eligible, and we have not reached the cap of the monies that we have available yet. So they will make all the decisions on the funding decisions tomorrow, as a matter of fact, which is the deadline for submitting applications. So we know that we're safe. We're in that stack and we're under their budget. So we're fairly confident that we will be funded based on our discussions with United Partners for Human Services.
And then my next question is, and you know, I'm going to ask this question: why did this not go through the CAC?
Well, the opportunity came available as a result of the Leon County CARES program. So, as you know, the CAC meets every other month, and the CRA meets maybe every other month. So, if we waited for the next CAC meeting or the next CRA meeting, we would basically miss this window of opportunity.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Richardson and then Commissioner Bryant.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. So, Kenny, is this a one-time request?
It is. This is basically a pilot program, and this program will be free through December. But after that, our plan is to sustain this program through fees and sponsorships. This program is probably designed more like what you would be familiar with would be computer tutors.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other question I had was recruitment. How will the clients be recruited for your program?
Actually, we're working with all the major organizations. We're working with Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce, the Capital City Chamber of Commerce, the NAACP, the Urban League, City of Tallahassee, and actually we've, as part of our budget, we've asked for a small amount for advertisement so that we can do some radio, some TV. Actually, we like to pay some influencers too on Facebook who have more than at least 5,000 friends to help us get the word out. And I'm a street level person on top of that, Curtis. I'm on the street every day talking to folks.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bryant, any questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Barber?
Yes, ma'am.
Has there been, I'm assuming that you've collected some kind of data to suggest that businesses need specific training on COVID-19? I mean, I'm trying to get into what kind of training is this going to be as it relates to the businesses and what they need to do that has not been provided already.
Okay, we, to answer that question, obviously I'm an accountant, so I'm no expert on COVID protocol. So we have, our plan is to work with an organization called McWillis Professional Cleaning Service, who are experts in the area of COVID defense and response for businesses. So, and the person that we are, will be working with, her name is Imani Trapp. So
is this targeted directly for the Frenchtown community or overall Tallahassee?
We're located in Frenchtown, but we'll take all commerce.
Oh, okay. I'm a big supporter of training, so I just couldn't reconcile what the actual demonstrated need is for COVID-19. All of those other things you said are definites in my mind. But okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Richardson.
Okay. Well, I think in light of the fact that this is a one-time request and the time sensitivity of it, as Kenny said, if he waits until the next CAC or CRA meeting, then he will have missed the 20,000. So I would make a motion that we fund this project for a one-time request for the 55,000 that Mount Olive is asking for.
There's a motion on the table. Dies for lack of a second.
I'll second, and I got it.
Hold on just a second. Okay, so am I hearing a second from Commissioner Matlow and the Vice Mayor?
Yes, I'll second that from the follow-up.
Okay, there's a motion.
Commissioner Matlow can second it.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Barber, I just had a couple questions. What's the time frame from if you got approved for this, Leon CARES Act, from today to getting your doors open and start having clients come in? What are we looking at?
We're looking at immediately. We are right now in the process of furnishing the place. We've got all of the internet, cable, all in place. So we're ready to move forward. So
Okay,
in that window for, beg your pardon?
You currently already have that set up and going forward?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then my other question would be, over the course of the 5 months, how many clients or assistants, how many individuals do you anticipate helping?
We intend to train 15 businesses and 36 residents.
Okay. Okay, those are all the questions I had.
Mayor Pro Tem, comments?
I'm good.
Excellent. There's a motion on the table for the approval of, now the attachment that I have has a budget of $43,000, but the request is, I think, for $55,000.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, there was actually a mistake on the budget. I actually forwarded a corrected version to Wayne this morning. They are actually administrative and general expense were omitted. I apologize for that, but we made the correction.
Okay, so Mr. Commissioner Richardson, the motion on the table is for $55,000, seconded by Commissioner Matlow. I will respectfully be voting against this motion. Once again, it has not gone through the process. There is no staff analysis. It has not gone through the Citizen Advisory Council. So I will not respectfully be able to support your motion, Commissioner Richardson. All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
let me ask this, and maybe we can do this in a separate motion, because I think that we need to have some metrics included in this. I've heard Mr. Barber say the number of people that were business and the people that will be trained, and it's also contingent upon the CARES Act dollars. So I think that we need to put some things in place. I know that it's almost a done deal with the CARES Act, but we got to make sure that the CARES Act money does come through, and that you're able to get that, and also that the performance measures that you provided, that we do hit those performance measures, because I don't want to just give money and we have no recourse if what we've said, what we believe to happen does not happen. So if I were to do anything, I would offer an amendment, or we could do it in a separate motion.
I would accept it as an amendment.
Okay, amend the motion that the CARES Act dollars must be received, and that the metrics that have been provided, that there will be how many companies trained?
15 businesses, 36 residents.
Okay, and that those performance measures must be hit, and when we say train, we mean walking out the door with a certificate, certification training, not folks who come to the program and drop out kind of training. So I would add those performance measures.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask.
Just a second, Mr. Tedder. Commissioner Richardson, do you accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion on the table?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, Mr. Tedder.
So one thing I probably need to be working with the city attorney's office on is the availability of spending CRA dollars on things like equipment, computers and tables, things like that. I don't think that's been an issue that we have sponsored in the past. So I want to make sure that we do put a caveat, so long as it's consistent with how we can spend CRA dollars, the funding would be made available. It may be that he can take the $20,000 CARES funding and pay for those items that the CRA cannot, and then the CRA fund those things that we can. So I do want that opportunity and the caveat that if we cannot fund it through the appropriate state statutes provisions, that we do not include that as part of the funding approval.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. So Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Richardson, I'll add to my amendment that the CRA dollars will be spent according to the CRA laws.
Yes. I accept that, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. And it does look like this motion is going to pass. But I think let's also clarify, Wayne, on the record, we haven't even had a discussion of exactly which line item this money will be coming from. Do you have an idea of how we will pay for this and where it will come from, and will it impact any of the other priority issues that we have before us?
This would be taken from the current year budget. What I would suggest is we look at things like our major event funding, which we have a balance of about $96,000 after today's action. So that would be the funding source that I would suggest if you intend to vote on this motion, is we take it from the large event funding that has been set aside for fiscal year 2020.
Wayne, do you have plans in the future of putting together policy on how we will handle proposals as they come forward, or is this how we will be doing business, where we just entertain proposals at CRA meetings without staff analysis, without the CAC input, and just appropriations decisions at the meetings?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, if I could jump in, and I would hate to put Wayne in position to answer that on the fly, but we know that there's a process and procedure that we should follow.
Correct.
We do know that we have to be agile and mobile in the event that we learn something that has a time limited availability on it, and that from what I'm hearing, that's what's happening here. We know that we have a process, and we talked about this at the last meeting that we had, where we talked about the Somo Walls project, and so I know that they're putting together some process and procedures, but I think that we would be putting ourselves in a real jam if we allowed if we miss an opportunity, especially in the 32304 zip code, if we don't allow for some opportunity for training to help people when we come out of COVID, to be prepared to take on some good paying jobs. And I think we're going to hear another possibility in our next presenter. The difference here is that they went to the CAC, but I don't think there were any Leon Cares dollars on the hook here. So I would just say we know that this is not general process. That's not how we run things. We know that. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to put Wayne out there on the hook for him to say something that we already know. That this is abnormal.
Mr. Mayor.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, that's why I asked the question about the time sensitivity of this. Typically, yeah, it would go through the process. We know what that process is. Wayne is working on criteria, established criteria, timelines, process. So whenever a project comes forward, everybody knows coming in what those processes are, what the timelines are. But given the time sensitivity of this one, is why I was willing to entertain it. Otherwise, I would suggest that it go through the process. But if we did that, then there's not even an opportunity to get the $20,000 in CARES funding.
I appreciate your clarification. Thank you. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. It passes 4-1 with the mayor in dissent. All right, we are on item number 3.05, Mr. Tedder.
Again, this item was brought to the Citizen Advisory Committee meeting as an idea or a concept from Ms. Inman Johnson. And so just real quickly before she presents, the CAC, it wasn't a specific ask per se. The CAC neither endorsed nor said no to the idea. So what we thought we'd do is, again, have that opportunity for her to present that project to you all. And if there's an appropriate direction for staff, then you will provide that to me today. With that, we will now switch over and let Ms. Inman Johnson be a panelist and present her concept.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning to the CRA board and the mayor. Thank you for putting me on the agenda. I hope each of you received the executive summary and had an opportunity to review it. I will just summarize very quickly what it's about, because I hope you have already read it and then address any questions that you have. I have, as you are aware, I have attended almost every retreat that the City Commission has had, and this is the City Commission sitting as the CRA board on the issue of poverty. That has been a concern of mine for many, many years, not just during the 28 years I was an educator, but all of the time I sat on the City Commission as a commissioner and mayor, and as the executive director of Capital Area Community Action Agency, which is one of the largest anti-poverty nonprofit agencies in this community, and 7 others that I was responsible for managing. Many of the self-sufficiency programs at Capital Area Community Action Agency and the Project Share program, I initiated during my tenure as executive director before retiring in 2012. Since that time, I have not stopped working passionately for low-income people in this community. This project proposal comes out of that passion for trying to make the community a place where there is a response to what's happening to low-income people in this community. There has been a lot of talk over the years about a business job training incubator. At one point, it was talked about in Frenchtown a long time ago, and it has been sort of tossed around, but nothing ever comes of it. And I was just looking at what's happening in our community where poverty is a major issue, and crime is going up, violent crime is happening. I get tired of seeing young men killed and young men going to prison for involvement in these kind of activities. And I feel this is a comprehensive proposal for addressing it. As Wayne indicated, I did make a presentation to the CAC. Since getting input, I have revised it a little and added more detail so that it is clear to the CRA board exactly what will be accomplished through this proposal. I want to say, because one of the issues brought up at the CAC board advisory committee was how it would be sustained. I make a point of the fact that this is a facility proposal only that I'm asking for funding from the City of Tallahassee for. And the programmatic issues will be taken care of without government being required to be the major component of it. We have a plan for a campaign, a fund development campaign, and we have built into the proposal income generating to sustain the programs inside of this center. But we first have to be able to accomplish the center one of the components, and the reason I added the component, is the recording and production, music recording and production studio, because that is a way to draw young people in to the center and the training, not just those who want to produce their own music, but once they're in there, they can learn production values and technology that go with the production of the music that might lead them to a career that they hadn't even thought of, that would be a good wage-paying career with benefits that could lift them out of poverty. And the project is targeted to the people who need access and need help the most. Young people who are either dropping out of school before receiving their diplomas because they see no hope of lifting themselves out of the situations they're in, or that percentage of young people who are not going to be college bound. A lot of our society think of every child who graduates from high school being college bound, but the reality is they are not. And a center like this would give them skills in a wide range of areas, from hospitality, from the event center, to the kind of skills I talked about with the music recording and production. Give them the opportunity, if they show a real aptitude for micro business ownership and trades, that would be all under one roof, sort of a one-stop training center that would also be an asset for the South City and South Side of town, because it would provide a high-quality facility for reuse, redevelopment, renovation, and reuse that is right there in that South Monroe, Orange Avenue corridor, that could generate private investment or interest in private investment on down South Monroe. The county is already planning major road renovation along South Monroe Street that this would be immediately adjacent to in the Town South Shopping Center. And the city is already looking at a project over on the Meridians and Orange Avenue side for transportation. So all of this plays in together, and also the redevelopment of the Orange Avenue project, where our church has been very involved in the lives of the children and the families in that area. I have already, thanks to a referral from the city, I have already talked with Ed Murray, who is Talcor, is the broker for that development where we would hope to locate. And he has kindly agreed to take our proposal to the owners of the property and see what their interest might be. But that is a quick summary. I am not asking for the full amount of the project in this round. In this first phase, I am simply asking for the planning and design money, which is $125,000 or whatever is available to assist us with that. So with that, I'll just take questions from the board.
Thank you, Doc. We appreciate it. Any questions from my colleagues? No questions. Thank you so much for the presentation. We certainly do appreciate it. We are moving on.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions, but I think that why the former mayor is presenting to us is that she presented to the CAC, and she desired to know what her next steps would be. Having the CAC had not made a recommendation one way or the other, would be that she would come to us to appeal to see what our temperament was in providing this assistance. And what I would like to do is ask that our CRA staff will work with Mayor Emma Johnson and help to get the information that might be required, along with the information from TalCorp as to whether the space that she has in mind is going to be available from the owners, but to continue to work with her so that we can come to a point where she can maybe come back to the CAC or come back to this board with more concrete information so we can actually really consider some funding. Earlier we just agreed to fund a training center in Frenchtown, and it sounds like we're looking at some type of training center on South Side. In addition to, this is not to replace what Tempo is doing. I think that there may be some touch points, but what she has just described is more, I think, and it may be a complement to what we're doing with Tempo. So I put it out there to say that I'm interested in supporting as we go, but we know that there are some things that we got to make sure that the owners of the property are willing to assist. Because if they're not willing to assist, then she's going to have to find another space. And we know her; she will find a space in a place. So I want to not just go past this without giving her some indication of where we may be thinking, at least.
Well, I agree with you and appreciate your comments. I think the project needs to be continually work on, not only between Ms. Emma Johnson, but also staff. And I think that, Wayne, I'm looking at you. You are committed to obviously working to move forward, to answer any questions and provide information and work with the city. You're right. I mean, I just received this. I haven't had a chance to dig really into it. I'm curious to know why the CAC did not provide any comment one way or the other. And so, you know, there's the process, again, that we need to look at, specifically involving the citizens, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Mayor Pro Tem, that this is not a full stop. Thank you so much for presenting. This is the first stop in the process, and staff will continue to work with them, and CAC will continue to work with them. As you said, you know, identifying property is obviously very important as well.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on just a second, Dot. We are in commission discussion real quick. Let me get Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I did reach out to Ed Murray myself several days ago to inquire, you know, about where Doc's request was with the owner, and I got no response from him either. So I don't know what that says, if it says anything, but I didn't get a response to my outreach to him as either.
Okay. Wayne, comment?
I think I've gotten some pretty good direction. So there's a lot of unknowns at this point, and you really can't even move forward with a concept until you have a space. So I think it's pertinent for her to identify the space and then let us kind of work from that direction. I will have to say, and I can't let this go without informing you, some of our earlier conversations that I've had with Ms. Emma Johnson is, where will the money come from? if you look at the short-term game, it's to do planning and design. But if we don't look at what the long-term request is and where that funding will come from, then that also needs to be a part of the process in which we take it through Citizen Advisory Committee. The end game could be up to, as it is right now, $1.5 million. And for the first time in the history of the CRA, we now have a 5-year spending plan that we're going to present to you today on how we satisfy the goals of the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. So there's going to be some tough decisions if this project moves forward. Where do you get the $1.5 million from? So that's going to have to be a key discussion point that we all have to have as it relates to the priorities that we have adopted in our redevelopment plan.
I got Commissioner Bryant, then Commissioner Matlow. Commissioner Bryant.
I was trying to get off mute. Now, the only comment I have is that there is a similar program called the Villages that's with this village, and I think that that information could be very helpful as we look forward to moving at least the information gathering forward.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, on point?
On point, yes, ma'am.
The Villages, I've been introduced to that program this week as well. They're not in the CRA. So they would not be eligible for CRA funding.
No, I wasn't just saying that it was available. I was saying that it's a program to look at.
Well, I think we've got some work to do and we need to keep moving forward. Commissioner Matlow?
Thank you. Mr. Tedder, I just had a question. When this was presented to the CAC, was it presented as an action item for an up and down or for approval, or was it just a presentation?
No, as you recall at your last board meeting, you all directed me to bring back a process in which we review projects. We do not have that process identified yet. We took a draft process to the CAC at the same exact meeting. So I'm trying to get my arms around all of that. They gave me good feedback. I will go back at the next CAC meeting and give them the process in which it should be, that based on what my comments that I heard, then I'll bring that back to you to agree to. And once you give me that direction, then we'll put any future projects in that process and try to stay to it as true as possible, with the exception of things that are urgent requests that you all get occasionally. So based on that, I did not have a process for it. And so we just simply put it as a presentation, just like we've done today, to try to get some feedback and say, hey, what are the issues or the concerns you all may have that you can give me some guidance moving forward. And I really didn't receive anything, like I said, I didn't receive anything positive and I didn't receive anything negative.
Okay, so moving forward, we'll definitely see when projects come through, they will go to the CAC and it'll be an item, so we can have either their support or reject it, and not kind of be in this limbo.
Yes, the way I would term what we did for Ms. Inman Johnson is do a pre-application. So here's something that is maybe coming before you in the future. Give me some concerns or issues that you need me to address as the formal application comes back.
Okay. And my other question is, I think we're about, you mentioned a recording studio. I think we're about 3 years since the Tallahassee Arts project came for approval. Do you know where that is? Is that moving forward? Because it seems like we got Frenchtown having a plan and needed money, and then we have a project that's had money for 3 years, and we're not seeing any work done on their end either.
Yes, so I've just had a verbal conversation with folks from the Florida Department of Transportation. They do have concerns with utilizing that building that TLH Arts is looking forward to. So that is something that they said they would provide me something in writing. But I can tell you the initial reaction is it's not favorable for that project moving forward at that location.
Okay, so potentially there's money that would come coming up with another arts project that could go into that, or how would that process work?
So the dollars that were allocated for that project was $1.8 million. It was TDC money. The City and County Commission agreed that it would be spent within the CRA districts. I believe it would open it up to the downtown as well as the Greater Frenchtown South Side, and I'll have staff correct me if I said anything incorrect on that. But what it would require is both the City Commission and the County Commission and the CRA Board to all agree on how those dollars are spent.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing more and seeing this project just develop a little more, with your assistance and CAC recommendation and see. I mean, I think it's a great idea. We need to push in that direction. I would like to see the details fleshed out and to see it come back at a future meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, final comments?
Yes, Wayne. In that regard, I know that you're working on the process and procedures, but I've also heard in the CAC's chair's report, and I've also heard from some of the members about the length of the meetings, and that's happening because of the infrequency of the meetings. I mean, you're on a schedule; it's like every other month, but perhaps we need to look at maybe having more frequent, shorter meetings if we think that will help. If you have something to discuss or to have in hand, so that we can maybe do something about the length of the meetings, and so that we don't have things coming to us because of the timing of the meetings and when things happen. Maybe we can possibly look at that to maybe eliminate some of those things. I just offer that out there, that might be a possibility.
Yes, ma'am. We'll actually look at that, and be quite honest with you, this entire summer we've met every month dealing with emergency funding. So it's been a busy year, and some folks got to realize that when projects come before us, we've got to move. We can't just sit on it. So when we have to deal with the timing that we're dealt with as staff as well. Trust me, I do not want to sit through another 5-hour CAC meeting again.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a closing comment?
Well, Dot, wait, please, quickly. We have to.
Yes. Nobody asked me questions, so I just want to make sure people noted in the proposal that there is a fund development plan, and we aren't asking the city to do everything, and nobody gave me any details on what needed to be done with the proposal at the time I went to the CAC. So I need clear guidance on what the CRA board needs from Wayne when we meet and talk, so that I can make sure I am taking care of my side of it.
Yes, and Dot, that is the direction that we gave to Wayne. I am sure that Mr. Tedder, as the executive director of the CRA, will be reaching out to you personally so that we can begin this process, and he will provide you with everything that you will need to provide. He will tell you everything that needs to be provided in order to go through the process. Wayne, are you crystal clear on the direction from this board?
Yes, sir, I'm very clear. I will be reaching out to Dot at the end of the day.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dot, for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Colleagues, I want to remind you that we have not even hit the consent agenda, and we have budget items that we have to discuss. Wayne, I am going to ask you, obviously, to be as thorough as possible, and we're going to spend as much time as we need on these issues, but at the same time, we need succinct presentations to be able to move forward as well. Okay? Let's maximize our time. Right now, we are on item 4.01. Do we have any registered public comments on the agenda items today, Mr. Tedder?
No, we do not.
We are on the consent agenda, 5.01.
Move acceptance.
It has been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Richardson and Commissioner Bryant. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. We are on the Greater Frenchtown side. It passes 5-0. Excuse me. We are on 7.01, the update and approval of affordable housing programs. Sherry Curtis and Wayne Tedder.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Commissioners, affordable housing, as we've talked about today, is a top priority not only of the Greater Frenchtown Southside District, but also the City Commission. You have committed to increasing the availability of affordable housing in the district. This agenda item provides the CRA Board with an update on several affordable housing initiatives in the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. Number one, it provides an update on the selection by the Greater Frenchtown Southside District Citizens Advisory Committee on the affordable housing design proposals that were submitted by 3 design professionals, and we also have now updated that to be 4 based on my comments earlier today. Number 2, it provides an update on the infill construction of affordable homes on 6 city-owned lots, and 3, a short-term affordable housing construction loan program. Staff is requesting the CRA Board to accept the update on the selection of the affordable housing design firms. approve $900,000 for the design of construction services for the infill program, and approve the contribution of $250,000 to the short-term affordable housing loan program recently approved by the City Commission at their July 8th meeting. We're recommending options 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Mr. Tedder. Do we have any public comment that's been registered or anybody signed up to speak on this item?
No, sir. We have no comments on any of the items today.
Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for commission discussion. Colleagues, will spend as much time on these budget items as we need to. Any discussion, any motions, any direction?
Move acceptance of staff recommendation.
Mayor Pro Tem has properly moved staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Richardson. Any further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. And I must say that that is an exciting item right there, as affordable housing is one of our priorities, and staff has done a tremendous job putting that together. Thank you. We are now on 8.01. Mr. Executive Director, Mr. Tedder.
Yes, sir. Item 8.01 is the approval to execute a contract with Flash Parking, Inc. for the purchase and installation of parking control equipment for the CRA-owned public parking spaces in the Bloxham West Commercial Condominium, which is the multi-use development that's located at Cascades Park. The CRA entered into an agreement to purchase 252 public parking spaces in the development. The parking garage is scheduled for completion during the first quarter of fiscal year 2021, so we expect by the end of this year that garage will be completed. And the purpose of this agenda, again, is to request authorization for me to execute a contract with Flash Parking for the equipment purchase and installation services for that facility. We are utilizing our membership with the National Cooperative Purchase Alliance to obtain the equipment and services in order to remain consistent with the equipment and services that are already being provided by that company to the City of Tallahassee for both Clayman Plaza and the East Side Garage. We are recommending options 1 and options 2. And Mayor, before there's discussion, I would like to say the city manager and I toured the site this week. The project is coming along exceptionally well. As that project moves towards completion, where you can actually get in there and get a good feel what the spaces are going to be like, I'm going to encourage you to let me set up a tour for you all. This is something I think we're all going to be proud of. It's not only the parking garage, but we have amphitheater support space that's going to serve our community in major ways. It will be a public space that will be open to all our communities. The Deputy City Manager, Barbara, said she wanted this thing to be an affordable venue that all citizens can take advantage of. And the views will be just absolutely spectacular from this development. So we'll encourage you that as it gets closer, I'll let you know. And I'd like to try to set up tours for those facilities with you all.
Excellent, thank you. And as it was stated earlier, we have no public comment on the record for this particular item. We'll open it up for commission discussion, direction. Colleagues? Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Now, Wayne, I want to make sure that this is from the downtown CRA.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to be sure because I want to make sure people understand we're not taking money from the Greater Frenchtown South Side to pay for a parking garage. I want to get that cleared up before we go any further. So, having said that, I move staff recommendation.
It's been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Richardson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. We are on item number 8.02, Mr. Tedder.
Item 8.02 is the authorization to solicit loan proposals for purchase of the CRA parking garage in the Cascades West Commercial Condominium, the same parking garage we're talking about on the previous item. Again, on January 10th of 2018, the CRA entered into a purchase and sales agreement with the Cascades joint venture to purchase the public parking facility as part of their development. The purchase price of the parking garage is $7.1 million. And on June 5th of this year, the CRA made an initial payment of $3.25 million for the facility, leaving a balance of approximately $4 million. Staff is seeking authorization to work with the City Treasurer Clerk's Office to seek proposals to finance up to $4 million to complete the purchase of the public facility. We have reached out to try to get to minority lending institutions involved with this. I've personally contacted one myself, as well as indicated to our treasurer clerk's office that we would like for them to make attempts to reach out to those agencies as well that could possibly loan the dollars for us. This will be a short-term loan, somewhere between 5 and 7 years. And so with that, we are recommending option 1.
There are no public comment that's been registered on this item. We'll open it up for commission discussion and direction.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Matlow.
Yeah, just one question on the parking facilities that are going on out there. Do we have revenue projections for those spots?
Yes, we do. But for this year's budget, we have not assumed any revenues. We need to get the parking garage and the entire development opened up. So once we open that up, your next year's budget will show those kind of projections moving forward in the outlying years.
Okay, so the repayment will be partly tax increment, but partly parking revenue as well.
That's exactly right. We do expect a strong, provided COVID opens us up, we project a real strong showing of revenues from that facility.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Question, when you mentioned you reached out to minority financial institutions, are you at privy to mention any of them?
FAMU Credit Union.
We'll say it again?
FAMU Credit Union.
Okay. Are there any others?
Not that I'm aware of, but if you are aware of any, let me know and I'll make sure they get notice of this opportunity.
But I'm not. I just wanted to make sure that we publicly said that we'd reached out to FAMU Credit Union because that was who I was going to recommend that we reach out to. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, with acceptance of the recommendation, staff recommendation, if no one has anything else to say.
Mayor Pro Tem properly moves staff recommendation. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Bryant. Dr. Bryant, did you want to weigh in? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to do exactly what Commissioner Williams-Cox did.
Excellent. Any further comment? Seeing none, it's been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Bryant. All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 5-0 unanimously. We're on item 9.01. Mr. Executive Director.
Yes, sir. The staff is seeking comments on the proposed fiscal year 2021 Community Redevelopment Agency operating and capital budget. Staff is also requesting a minor amendment to the fiscal year 2020 budget to address city services provided for the Frenchtown Rising events. Following this review, any of your comments we will bring back in September to adjust the budget as based on any recommendations that you have. Before Sherry presents this, and I would like for her to present the budget in its entirety, I will say this is one of the years I am very, very proud of what we've done, in particular for the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. We've been working over the last 2 years to complete a redevelopment plan that establishes the priorities of the district. And now we're trying to put the money where our priorities are. And so for the first time in the history of the CRA, we now have a proposed 5-year funding plan that reflects the priorities of the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. So with that, Sherry, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Sherry. Thanks for joining us.
You're on mute.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Okay, so hopefully you all can see my screen. We are very excited about how we want to present the fiscal 2020 proposed budget to you. This is the first year, like Wayne said, that we've looked at the city's 5-year strategic plan and allocated those budget expenditures with the city's priorities as well as the Greater Frenchtown Southside community priorities. We'll start by looking at the Greater Frenchtown Southside budget. And what we want to do is show you what the goals are. For the Greater Frenchtown Southside redevelopment area. And this first slide shows you the city's priorities in its 5-year strategic plan, as well as the Greater Frenchtown Southside goals that they have ranked in priority order. And basically, the community last year went through a process of ranking the goals in the redevelopment plan, and they've ranked them from 1 through 10, but you'll notice that there are 3 goals that are tied at a rank 7. And so what we've done is we've gone through our budget and proposed how we want to invest those dollars into those goals that the citizens of the redevelopment area have indicated are most important to them. So our first goal, and just to give you an explanation of how what's being presented here, you'll notice in your columns the rank is number 1, was the first ranked part goal for this community, and then we show the city strategic plan priority area being economic development, and then the community goal and objective of encouraging a thriving economic base, and then we've shown the current 2020 budget and the proposed 2021 budget, and then our out years for the next 5 years. And then that last column shows you how we're investing those dollars over the 5-year period. So it gives you a total of our proposed investments. So we'll start looking at the first slide, and as you can see, encouraging a thriving economic base is aligned with the city's priority area of economic development. Each goal voiced by the community, we aligned it with the strategic plan. And so under economic development, you'll see how for the proposed year, we are looking in the next 5 years of investing $8.7 million in economic development programs. In fiscal year 21, we're putting $172,000 in the deck and the block. And I do want to explain that those numbers that are in red, these are our contractual expenses. These numbers cannot change because we are obligated to make these expenses annually. And so the $172,000 to the deck and the block, this is a TIF reimbursement payment. This is the final payment we'll make for this construction project that's on Gaines Street. And then we're proposing $72,800. This is another obligation for the garage expenses where the CRA owns garage spaces in the deck and block development project. This is an annual expense. Then we have $375,000 being proposed for Big Bend Cares. This is another contractual obligation for the CarePoint facility. And this is the final fiscal year 21 will be the final payment we'll make for the Big Bend Cares project. And we talked earlier about the Frenchtown Quarter site. You all approved $625,000 as a loan for that Frenchtown Quarter site, as well as another $150,000 for an environmental study for the Frenchtown Quarter site. So we have $775,000 that we're obligating to that particular project. But we have also allocated $1 million in out years to that project when they come back to us, and we anticipate dollars being approved for that in the future. So we've already trying to set aside dollars for that project in our out years. So we're right now looking at $3.7 million being proposed for that particular project over a 5-year period. And then our business facility program, which we've allocated $300,000 annually for that project. We put in $300,000 last year. We're putting in another $300,000 this year. And in our 21 and 23, we've lowered that amount some because we had to balance the budget, but we increased it back to $300,000 in fiscal 24. But over the 5-year period, we're looking at $1.3 million in business facility improvement program. And then again, you'll see SOMA Walls, which was recently approved by you all for the and we're proposing $328,000 for that. This includes the undergrounding of the utilities at $216,000, and then annually we'll put in $112.5 thousand into that project for a total of $778,000. Again, we have property management dollars that we're putting into, and then the medium and large capital master project and contingency fund, we're proposing $300,000 for that this year. I do want to emphasize that this contingency fund is where at the end of the year, when we have dollars remaining from other economic development projects, we will roll those dollars over into this medium and large capital master project and contingency fund at the end of the fiscal year. Right now, we're proposing to put in $300,000 for fiscal year 21, but our 2020, we may have funds coming into that project remaining from other projects such as like business facility. If that $300,000 isn't expended, then the remaining balance will roll over into our contingency fund at the end of the fiscal year. So total for all of our...
Sherry, let me interrupt. So commissioners, this line is very important because both the CAC and you all have said, where's the money going to come from for projects that you are interested in? We are trying to be very transparent to say, this is the line item, this is what we have available for new projects that are not anticipated. So over time, as people come in and request projects and expenditures, this is going to be the first source that we're going to look at for funding. And if it's more than that has been allocated, then we have to take away from other projects. Sorry, Sherry.
That's okay. No, please interject whenever needed. And just to emphasize what Wayne indicated, when we talk about those projects that are outlined in red, those are the ones that we can't change. But the ones that are in black is when we need to look for how we want to fund additional projects. We may have to look at these dollars that are in black to see how we can reduce those dollars in order to fund other projects that we'd like to fund.
Mr. Mayor.
So overall, for the economic development...
Commissioner Matlow, just a second, Sherry, I apologize. Commissioner Matlow, I apologize. You're trying to ask a couple questions.
Yeah, no, you're fine. It's technology's hard, man. And I just had a quick question on the allocations for Frenchtown Quarters. That final project hasn't come back. I know it's changed a bunch of times. Is that just an anticipation of what they may ask for?
Yes, sir. It's an anticipation of what they may ask for. We wanted to go ahead and set aside some money. We're not sure at this point what their final request will be because we're still working with that development to see how that's going to come to us in the future.
Okay, so those are just penciled in numbers based on what may come back?
Yes, sir.
No, hold on. Just a second, though, because Commissioner Matlow brings up a good point. Didn't we take an official vote, though, to allocate $775,000?
It's in red.
That's why it's in red. So, Jeremy, Commissioner Matlow, I guess we can change our mind if we wanted to, but the point is that that was an official vote that took place. That's why it's allocated in red.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I was just trying to see the difference between the two and what that added up to. I appreciate it.
The future years, those $1 million in the future years are what we're anticipating or projecting, but that will most likely change once they come to us for a final request. And so you'll see that for fiscal year 21, our total economic development investment for fiscal year 21, we're proposing $2.3 million for our economic development projects, which is the #1 priority that the community has indicated in trying to create a thriving economic base within the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. The next goal that the community has indicated that is most important to them relates to the impact on poverty priority area for the city, and it's by facilitating quality, affordable, and mixed income housing. And as we've already discussed the affordable housing projects, and you've already invested quite a bit in affordable housing, and that's very important to the community currently. We're showing for fiscal year 21, we're have not invested in the affordable housing for fiscal year 21 other than the $1.5 million request that will come from Tallahassee Housing Authority. But you'll notice here for in prior fiscal years, you approved $250,000 for the affordable housing construction loan program. And you've also just recently approved $900,000 for the 6 units that will be built on city-owned lots in the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. Those dollars will come from our fiscal 19 and fiscal 20 balance in affordable housing projects, where we have almost $1.4 million in affordable housing funds. So those dollars have already been set aside for those projects, and that money is already there from our fiscal 19 and 20 dollars. And then for fiscal year 21, we're proposing the $1.5 million that will come from the Tallahassee Housing Authority Orange Avenue Apartments redevelopment project for phase 2. And we've already put in over $1 million in the Orange Avenue phase 1 project. And we should be seeing some movement on that project very soon in early fiscal year 21. And so we're proposing the $1.5 million, and you should be having a presentation coming to you at your next board meeting from the Tallahassee Housing Authority regarding the $1.5 million. But overall, over the next 5 years, we're looking at $2.5 million from fiscal year 21 through 25, but it's really 3.9 if you consider the $1.4 million that is coming from fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20. And then looking at our next ranked project, which is quality of life, and that is to promote a healthy community. That, even though it's ranked number 5, it's very important to the citizens of the Greater Frenchtown Southside District when it comes to supporting their redevelopment plans and getting those plans implemented. As you can see, we're proposing to invest over the next 5 years $12 million in promoting a healthy community. And the majority of those funds are going to our neighborhood plans that are being implemented, mostly in the Bond neighborhood that was approved for the $6.4 million for fiscal year 21. We're looking to invest $2.5 million in the budget for that. And then for Greater Frenchtown, we're looking at 1.1 for fiscal year 21. Now, although Greater Frenchtown plan has not been approved, we know that they're currently working on trying to get that plan completed. And so we've already invested $1 million from fiscal year 20, and we're proposing 1.1 for fiscal year 21. And you'll see in our out years for 22 through 25, we're also setting aside money for the Frenchtown plan. Once it is approved, we've already set aside $6.4 million, similar to what was approved for the Bond neighborhood. And then you'll see where it says Neighborhood First Futures. That's for future neighborhood plans that will come on board. We're indicating that we're looking at setting aside additional funding for those plans. I know that the Providence neighborhood and South City are looking to have their neighborhood plans completed and implemented. And so we're setting aside money for those future neighborhood plans that will come online in the future. And so you'll see for fiscal year 21, right now we are proposing $3.6 million, and that includes the Greater Bond allocation as well as the Frenchtown neighborhood plan. Moving on to public infrastructure, which is ranked number 7 based on the community goals and objectives. And it aligns with the public infrastructure priority area for the city strategic plan. That's enhancing existing and promoting new infrastructure projects. These are small capital improvement projects that the executive director has $25,000 authority to improve small capital improvement projects, similar to what we did in fiscal year 21 with undergrounding utilities at Stern Street, as well as upgrading lights on Dover Street to LED lights. So we're proposing $100,000 for those type of projects. We did the same thing in fiscal year 20, and we're looking to do that for fiscal year 21 and in our future out years, and investing $500,000 in small infrastructure projects within the Greater Frenchtown Southside District. And another quality of life is supporting the arts and entertainment opportunities. This is ranked 7th as well. You'll see where we've already approved promotional and special events for $50,000, as well as large events for $100,000 for fiscal year 21. This is similar to what was approved in fiscal year 20. Over the course of 5 years, we're looking at investing $750,000 into supporting arts and culture and entertainment opportunities. You'll notice here that we have Frenchtown Rising. This event was approved for $80,000 in last year, and what we're asking is to make a budget adjustment for fiscal year 20 for $8,801 for that particular project. There were additional expenses incurred after a reconciliation was done for Parks and Rec. If you remember, the CRA board approved $80,000 in grant funds for the 2019 fiscal Frenchtown Rising event. Those funds were split between Parks and Rec and Mount Olive Housing and Community Development Corporation. But with the late reconciliation of costs, there were some additional expenses that were not accounted for. And those additional expenses indicated that $8,801 was owed by Mount Olive. Staff is asking to make a budget adjustment of our large event dollars to cover that $8,000 expense, which would leave our large event funding from $100,000 to $91,000. And we've made that adjustment here, but we're asking the CRA board to allow us to make that budget adjustment for fiscal year 20 to cover that $8,000 expense.
Sherry, let me jump in. Hold on, let me jump in. I'll come to you in just a second, Mayor Tim. Exactly what were the expenses that Mount Olive came under $8,000 short of the budget that we are now being asked to cover?
Those expenses are coming from our TPD, or Tallahassee Police Department, and they were based on the charges that came out. And I'm not, can you hear me? I hear some feedback.
I can hear you.
Okay, so those charges came out of the late reconciliation of costs through Parks, Rec, and Neighborhood Affairs. And so there were some additional expenses because of the increased crowds, and there had to be additional police coverage. And so the $8,801 will go towards the Tallahassee Police Department expenses.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask too. Was that due to something that Mount Olive did, or but you just explained that it was due to, I guess, late, billing or invoicing for those services?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And so to give you a summary of the Greater Frenchtown Southside budget review for proposed fiscal year 21, our revenues are showing $8.7 million. Our operating expenses, our personnel and administrative expenses of $554,000. Our contractual commitments, $1.7 million, and those are all our contractual obligations. And then our non-contractual obligations are at $4.4 million. That includes our neighborhood programs. And then the pending request of $1.5 million from the Tallahassee Housing Authority for their phase 2 on the Orange Avenue apartments, giving us a balance of $548,251. But keep in mind that that balance is carryovers into the next 5 years. So if they're funding, like we've recently approved the Peacock Center for $55,000, we'll need to look at our budget to see where we want to take those dollars from, because it's going to affect everything over the next 5 years where we've allocated those funding. So that's our Frenchtown Southside budget. And then I just want to quickly go over our downtown expenses. We have not set aside our downtown expenses similar to what we've done in Frenchtown. We will be looking at how we can develop strategies and strategic priorities to better guide the downtown expenditures. And we hope to come to you when we look at our fiscal year 22 budget to see how we can formulate our downtown budget similar to how we've done for our Frenchtown Southside budget. So for right now, what you're looking at is our downtown capital expenses, and these are our contractual expenses for downtown. And the majority of these expenses, as you can see, will come from the Capital Cascades project from Cascade Joint Venture, and over $8 million, which is being related to that particular development. And early next year, Cascades Joint Venture will deliver 252 parking spaces, and we've just had an agenda item regarding that. In addition to the parking garage, they'll also deliver a 13,000 square foot amphitheater support space in the historical Memorial Plaza. And so those dollars are shown here on the highlighted portion of our 21 proposed budget. We show the $1.7 million for infrastructure expenses, the $4 million for the garage expenses, where you all just approved to allow us to solicit loan proposals for that $4 million loan to purchase for the garage. And then you have a $2.25 million in support space from the TDT funds. So overall, for the contractual expenses for our downtown is $9.1 million. That where most of that is coming from the Capital Cascade project, which is a very exciting project that I think we all are looking forward to. And then we're looking at our non-contractual expenses for the downtown. Our non-contractual expenses are basically our property management expenses, where we manage the properties that are owned by the CRA in the downtown area. And then you've already approved for the promotional and special event, $35,000 and $100,000 for the large events. And then again, we have our small capital expenses project. That's similar to what we have in our Greater Frenchtown Southside District, where the executive director can use his authority of $25,000 to do small capital improvement projects, mainly infrastructure projects. So we're proposing $100,000 there for a total of $242,500 for our non-contractual expenses, leaving us with $3.4 million at the end of the year for available funding. But again, keep in mind that these dollars are cumulative from one year to the next as we look at our out-year funding. So our summary for the downtown budget shows our revenues being proposed at $13.2 million, our operating expenses at $384,000, our contractual commitments at $9.1 million, and then our non-contractual commitments at $242,000, leaving a balance of $3.4 million. And that will be the last slide that I have, but I do want to indicate that as we look at these budget numbers, we will come back to you in September based on any comments that you have today, and then we'll also come back to you with the approvals that you made today regarding the $55,000 for the Peacock Center. But keep in mind that for our 5-year projection, that these numbers are contingent on any implications that COVID may have on our property tax values over the next 5 years. So these numbers may change, and we'll come back to you as those numbers change with budget amendments throughout the fiscal year. And so right now we're looking for comments from you regarding the budget and acceptance of the 21 budget update, as well as approving the 20 budget amendment, providing $8,801 in our large event funding from the Greater Frenchtown Southside District to cover the Frenchtown Rising expenses.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Certainly do appreciate that thorough presentation on the budget. Mayor Pro Tem.
I was going to say the same thing, Mayor. This is very good. I was very impressed in our briefing that this is clear and easy to understand, and we can actually see where things are in the next 5 years. I think that the superhero in strategic planning amongst us, Dr. Bryant, is very proud to see how this is all laid out. You know, so I don't know if she had anything to do with it, but I see her smiling over there. So very good. I think that it's very clear for people to actually understand going forward, and looking forward to the projects that we have already committed to and those that will be coming towards us. Wayne, one of the things that I know we've been talking about, I know you all are working on, is for projects that are coming, having some type of portal where those projects can be seen internally as well as externally, so we'll know what's in the pipeline, kind of thing. So I know you're going to be working on that so that we can do that, have that, because we get a lot of questions in the community about projects, and did you see my project, or did you hear about my project? And so then we find ourselves saying, well, you know, contact the CRA office and get on the agenda. So we want to make sure that we're very transparent. We are transparent now, but more transparent on the projects that are coming in and going out, so we can see where they fit in the overall scheme of the budget. Great job. Great job.
Yeah. Mayor, you're muted.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to commend Wayne and the staff for this excellent budget and budget presentation. I think this is probably one of the best, if not the best, presentations that we've had since I've been on the commission for the CRA, or on the CRA board, I guess I should say. And you all are absolutely to be commended for this. I mean, it's clear, it's transparent, it shows us, you know, what our obligations are 5 years out, It's based on the priorities of the community, what they have told us they want, and that is so important to have that input and base everything that we're doing on what they've told us they want. So Wayne, again, and the part that I'm most excited about is the investment that we're making in those neighborhoods. $12 million total, over the next 5 years. That's significant. And that's gonna be transformational for those neighborhoods that will be getting that kind of investment. So great job, and we look forward to working with you all as we go forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to entertain a motion at this point?
I'll take a motion. Yes, sir.
I would move the adoption of the budget as been presented and include the amendment for the $8,801 for funding the shortfall from the Frenchtown Rising.
It is. It's been properly moved by Commissioner Richardson, seconded by Dr. Bryant. Dr. Bryant for comment.
Yes, thank you. I really did not have anything to do with this presentation of Commissioner Cox, but I can tell you that I am extremely excited to see the crosswalk between a budget and a strategic plan. So excellent, excellent job. This is awesome. I gladly second this motion.
Excellent. And I look forward to supporting the motion as well. Commissioner Matlow, comment?
Yeah, this will be approving the update, and it'll officially be adopted in September, correct?
Correct.
That's all I have.
Excellent, thank you. I look forward to supporting this motion as well, which brings the formal budget back to us. Wayne, quick question about the amendment. If I recall back when we approved the money for the Frenchtown events, didn't the city also in-kind services?
Yes, sir. To what extent, I cannot recall right offhand.
All right, I'm just curious moving forward as well, because somehow there was a disconnect. Somehow, not only did we in-kind services, and I don't want to put Parks and Recreation under the gun, but they do this for all of our events. Somehow there was a disconnect between we in-kind city services and yet still under budgeted for police services by what, 20%? Because we spent half of the allocation last year for, how much did we spend total last year? 46,000?
You got the number, Sherry? You're on mute.
Total, we approved $80,000, and it came out to be about $88,000 total for the event.
Okay, so basically 10% override. I'm just Wayne, later, not at a meeting, not during a briefing, but I'm interested in sitting down and you walking me through exactly what is our policy again for determining how many officers are needed? What's the formula? Like if you have 1,000 people on an event, you need X officers. If you have 2,000, you need X officers. Where was the breakdown? And what exactly was the municipal services that were in kind to the overrun? I will support the budget amendment though today, okay? And we'll do that on our own time, Wayne.
Okay.
Great. Seeing no further comment on the motion on the table, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. Do we have any other business to come before this body, Wayne?
No, sir, we do not, unless you want a quick update on the disaster assistance grant.
I am, are my colleagues interested in the?
Yes.
All right,
okay, so at this point, I am going to turn the gavel over to the Mayor Pro Tem. I'm afraid that I need to exit myself from the meeting. I am late for another engagement. I would request that it's just an update, that no action is taken. If there is action taken, that we delay to the next meeting. But with that, Mayor Pro Tem, I will let you run the rest of the meeting as the Vice Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And colleagues, thank you for understanding. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So commissioners, I'm going to let Melissa share one slide that gives you an overview. If you got any questions, I think all the staff will, we've had different forms of involvement from different levels. So whatever questions you have, we'll be glad to answer. I will say while Melissa's trying to bring up the presentation, we are receiving fewer and fewer requests. I think we've gone about 4 or 5 days in a row where we've not received any requests at all. I think it may be appropriate for us to bring back an agenda item in September to say, here's where we are, and get some final direction. Do we close out the program, or is there alternative a direction that you want to give me at that time? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa, and of course, any staff that has to respond to any of your questions. Melissa, you have the floor. And you're muted. Well, how about I start it? So right here, it says it all. Oh, there you go. Go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry, using two different computers gets confusing. I apologize for that. As you can see from the slide, we've received 110 applications, and I believe we've received one or two more since about 7 o'clock this morning. And 70 of those applications have been approved. That means we've distributed $140,000 in funds, which means there's $110,000 left that is still budgeted. We have 10 applications currently under review, and 30 applications were denied. 24 of those 30 were denied because they were outside of the GFS, and 4 were received CEDAR grant money, and 2 were denied for other reasons.
Okay, any questions from my colleagues? Hearing none, Wayne, I have a question.
Okay.
Can we maybe remind folks, do another push to remind folks, because we had a drop dead date for the CEDAR grant and others, and so they may think that they've missed it. And I know that from the weekly updates that I've been getting, I've seen some names on there with the request for additional information. And I'm hearing that some folks have just decided not to because they may not have exactly what we're asking for. So if someone can maybe work with those individuals to see if that's really what's going on, or find out what's going on. I spoke with someone yesterday who was just learning about it, and I sent them to call your office to get them, because I was driving, so I couldn't send them anything. If they could get more information. I still think that there is need, but I think that people have, gone on and forgotten about it, or they may not have all of their ducks in a row, and it's becoming a job to get their ducks in a row. So if we can reach out and see if there's anything we can do to salvage any of those, I personally would appreciate it, because I've seen some of the names on that list, and I know them, and I know that they could benefit from it with a little help.
Yes, ma'am. So regarding the publication of the information, I will say Allison and her team have done an exceptional job getting the word out. About every 2 weeks, we do a blast through all forms of media. We released a video yesterday. Sherry is explaining it. So it was released on all forms, platforms that we have throughout the city. So that's, again, just went out again yesterday. We will, again, before your next meeting, we'll do another push to try to close out as many as we can. And I will say, Sheila Williams is one of the hardest working individuals when you're dealing with these types of issues. And if she can't get it solved, I don't think it's solvable. So we'll put her on all of these and try to close them out to the best extent possible. And I think what we may be getting to is some of them we just cannot get to a finish line with these applications. So,
and if that happens, take them off the additional information required list. You just go ahead and put them on the list that they should be on if we can't get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and you're right about Sheila. You're absolutely right. She's the best. You go out there and knock on some doors with her mask on and gloves. She'll do that. So thank you.
Yes,
colleagues, anyone else have any comments?
I think Melissa's hand went up. Melissa.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Melissa. I didn't see you.
That's all right. I just wanted to add that the beginning of August, they removed the disaster assistance grant for the CRA from the main page of the city homepage. That was put back up there yesterday, and we've received additional applications. So that may help also.
Okay, great.
Good comment, Melissa.
Yeah.
Great. Any other comments? Anything else to come before the board? Hearing none, we declare this meeting adjourned.
All right.
Thank you all so very much for your help.
Great job, Wayne, staff.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You all have a good day too.